little bit stupid and angry, but entertaining. What are some of the? I know that you've done magic in other places and got to meet and interact with other magicians. What are some of your best moments from your career in magic?
Oh boy! So I took off back in the '90s and did the whole chase the dream, did the Hollywood, the LA dream thing, and was very fortunate that I managed to become a part of the LA magic scene, which was really kind of cool and kind of big, but it was pure luck. And I got to meet a lot of my heroes, my idols in magic, people that I've looked up to my whole life, read their books and studied their performances. One was a guy named Lance Burton, who I've actually got tattooed right here in my arm. And I was at home one day. My roommate was an up-and-coming LA, name in the magic scene, Andy Hamix. And Andy was out one day. The phone rang, and I heard this voice say, "Andy, how you doing? It's Lance." And I said, "This is his roommate Michael. Who's calling?" He said, "Oh, tell Andy that Lance Burton called." And I went, "Yeah, all right." Click. And then I hung up the phone. This is like Madonna calling your house. This is the man who had signed a $100 million contract in Las Vegas, 2 consecutive $100 million contracts. Greatest magician in the world.
Anyhow.
And I hung up on him again. So, but he was super the next day. When Andy came home, I said, somebody claimed to be Lance Burton. He said, it's probably Lance. So they called and they had a chat, and Lance said, does Michael want to come out and see the show? And Andy goes, let me ask him. Lance had the whole the limos and the suites in the hotel and the VIP tickets, and it was really great. So getting to meet a lot of those guys was pretty spectacular. One in particular was a guy named James DeMare, who was a big hero of mine, and to make a long story short, everybody told me that I would not like him when I met him, and he wouldn't have the time for me because he's an arrogant son of a bitch who wouldn't talk to anybody who's not important. And I ended up meeting him at a private party one night, and when I was introduced as Michael from Newfoundland, and he turned around and took his sunglasses off like 12 o'clock at night. He said, "Go on, by, you're from the Rock, are you?" and we sat and we drank and we chatted and talked about eating cod tongues, and it was fantastic. But the coolest thing is anybody who knows James DeMare knows that he wouldn't be talking to a nobody, which, let's face it, I was. So after I finished my conversation with him, everybody wanted to find out who I was.
By osmosis.
Yeah, they were disappointed.
Okay, so your show is at the Dance Space on Grafton Street.
Yeah.
And how many shows do you have left now?
I've got 4 left.
Okay, great. And I know you're all over Twitter.
Getting there.
So what's your Twitter name?
At Michael J Magic.
Okay, so follow him and find out more about his shows and what you're doing after this. And before we wrap up, is there any other shows that you have seen or are looking forward to seeing as part of the
There's a whole
festival?
bunch I'm looking forward to seeing. I haven't gotten out to see any yet, unfortunately, but there are a couple. Tonight I wanted to get out to see, I'm sorry I forget the exact title, it's something Wildcat.
Yeah, Watch Out
Wildcat. I wanted to get out to see that tonight. I loved their 1 minute that they did with the sampler, but I have a baby that prevented me from getting out tonight on time, so that went out the window.
That's a bad choice anyway.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Just Kidding. We wrote this. There's a whole bunch of really, really good shows that I really want to see. But those are the ones that immediately come to mind.
Great. Well, and you've still got some time left in the festival to see them. So, great. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks for supplying us. Just because some of the other shows have multiple people with them, so it's more comfortable than your seat, I understand. Only marginally so.
You might be that rowdy guy in the bar and you can't get out.
Well, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. That is actually much bigger and more intimidating than I am. I would just get him to solve that problem.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Michael James, and you can catch it at Dance Space on Grafton Street. Next, I am going to call up the folks from 3 Drops of Blood. I see you right there. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to come a little closer so I can see it. Or it's, I don't know if there's like a spring or something. This is a very, very fancy couch, as you can tell. It's been part of the Fringe Festival for longer than I've been part of the Fringe Festival. So
I'm afraid I'm going to get lost in it.
yeah, we lose a lot of artists that way, I'm not going to lie. Okay, so the show is 3 Drops of Blood. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're involved in the show.
I'm Jennifer Giesbrecht. I wrote the show. This is my first time participating in Fringe, and actually the first time I've ever wrote a screenplay. I'm actually a short story prose writer, so it's a bit of a challenge.
I'm Rebecca Schneiderite. I directed the show, and I've known Jen since she was 13 when I was 12, and we were in The Lion King together. And she was Zazie when I was a butterfly.
Excellent. And so you've been involved in Fringe before, but you said this is your first time as a sorry, Jennifer, you said it was your first time as
I've never been involved in Fringe
Okay.
before. She's been involved many times.
Yeah.
4 times.
So tell us a little bit about the show, 3 Drops of Blood. Tell us as much as you'd like to. I don't know why I limited it to a bit.
It's a post-apocalyptic friendship drama about 3 girls and sort of how different personalities react to an end-of-the-world scenario. It's got a lot of black humor in it.
It's a zombie story, seen from the perspective of the girls who become zombies.
So is it your like typical post-apocalyptic friendship zombie story, or is there something unique about it?
No, that's a great question. When I started writing it, like the aim was not really to write a zombie story. I sort of have like a lot of, I guess moral problems with the way a lot of zombie stories are framed, because there's a lot in zombie stories about kind of the fantasy of enacting violence on like human bodies in a completely like blameless fashion. So I thought it would be interesting to sort of tell it from the perspective of the monsters instead. But at its heart, it really is a story sort of about like struggling friendship and mental illness and being in your early 20s and just how different personalities bounce off each other in very dire situations that you can't possibly predict because they're so far removed from everyday life.
Wow. So I guess like the sci-fi aspect just gives you a new lens to explore some basic human situations.
Yeah, which is like the inherent use of science fiction, right? Is using speculative elements to explore things that we feel and experience in real life, but under a more extreme lens.
So, and I know there are a lot of sort of models and approaches to the zombie concept. Like there's, I probably couldn't recite them now. There's the Romero theory of zombies. Like, are you drawing on any specific zombie influences in the way that you're in the universe of your story?
Because the characters, I'm sorry I keep interrupting you like the last person.
Oh no, I will just keep going until you interrupt me.
Because the characters themselves are the monsters, we couldn't really approach zombie from a typical fashion. So it's framed more as a pandemic where eating human meat is actually the cure to the pandemic, rather than the outcome of it.
Okay.
I think more than the zombies being recognizable, the people are recognizable. Like, they're people you would meet in Halifax who just happen to be zombies. Like your roommate or your friend from school who just happens to be a zombie.
Yeah, I know people like that. So you said you're a fan of the science fiction. Rebecca, have you been involved in science fiction shows in the past?
No, I've been on the rom-com side of things, so this is a bit of a divergence for me.
So do you have any, did you have an interest in science fiction before getting into this show, or what was that like?
I've always been big into sci-fi and fantasy. I just didn't, you don't see many science fiction plays. There's always 1 or 2 every year, and that's great, but they're hard to do, I think. But I read Jen's short story, and she wanted to put it on stage, and I thought, there's no way we can possibly not do that, because Fringe is coming. So. Yeah,
we do have, one of the things, I'll just talk about Fringe because that's what I do. One of the great things about Fringe is it can allow types of theater that don't often work in traditional environments. So we've had some actually pretty successful shows. Doppler Effect did Whiteout a couple of years back, which was a zombie kind of horror story. really hard to stage, but Fringe gave them an aspect. And there's a sci-fi show that's on in this festival called Tribe of One, which again, sci-fi is kind of hard to present in a theater context, but it seems to be working for them. So it's, again, one of the things I really like about Fringe is it allows a lot more experimentation than some of the more traditional theater festivals. So your show is playing at the Living Room on Agricola Street,
Yes.
and where are you in your run?
We are 4 shows through, so we have 4 shows left.
Okay, so plenty of opportunities to see you, and the cast is it's a cast of
It's a cast of 3. It's Dorothy Allen and Jessica Pellerin and Jane Scott. And Jane and Jessica have done other stuff in Fringe and in Halifax. And Dorothy is returning to the stage after she told me 12 years. It's her first show in North America. She's from Luxembourg. So
Oh, wow.
it's here in Halifax for North American debut.
Did you fly her in from Luxembourg for the show?
It was
or-
very expensive. So we're hoping to bring in some goodies
It was
for
a
her.
very wide casting call for the Excellent. And before we wrap up, are there other shows that are on your radar screen or that you've seen and enjoyed?
You start.
I have not had a lot of time